Welcome to another edition of Bases and Balls of Guardians broadcaster Jim Rosenhaus, brought to you by Nika IBEW. I'm Ray Horner, and let's bring in Jim Rosenhaus. And Rosie, I thought, first of all, let's talk about, and you and I were talking about it earlier this week, about the young outfielders that all of a sudden are making an impact, which it's going to be very interesting on down the line. And these guys are all contributing in their own way.
Yeah, and for some of them, it's so early in their careers, you don't know, where that's going to go. There will be some ups and downs. But look at a young left fielder in Steven Kwan, a young center fielder in Miles Straw. He's not a grizzled veteran by any means. And then Nolan Jones is up now and performing well. Oscar Gonzalez was a real shot in the arm when he came up, so that was exciting. And there's some more waiting in the wings down in the minor leagues. So, maybe it's turning a little bit, because I think heading into this season, there was a lot of concern about the outfield and what's there and what's the future and that type of thing. But it looks like the future is pretty bright for some good young outfielders.
Rosie, you've seen everything from Steven Kwan this year, the quick start and a little bit of a slowness. And then you saw him get a few starts in center field as well. And now the move from the bottom of the order to the top of the order, where I think he's had an impact with us. And down the line in the future, is Kwan a corner outfielder, center fielder, a little bit of both? Where do you see him fitting with this team?
I think corner outfielder, right? But with the idea that when Miles Straw needs a day or two here and there, that he can slide right over and certainly be competent in center field. But I think he's more of a corner outfielder right now. And, he's been pretty good out there. He's got a decent arm and he tracks balls down very well. He's made some great diving catches. So, defensively, I think he's just fine, especially in the corners. And you're right. Since he's moved to that leadoff spot, he's been a real boost at the top of that lineup. Just the at-bats and the ability to get on base, make some contact. I think it's what you're looking for in a leadoff hitter.
I love it. Those top three at the top of the order, man, they get on base. When you talk about Kwan and Rosario and J-Ram. Speaking of J-Ram, let's talk about heading into the AllStar break next week, Rosie. Our three All-Stars. You got Jose Ramirez, Emmanuel Clase, and Andres Jimenez, who may be the biggest surprise on this baseball team.
Yeah, and good for him to make the team, because you figured Jose Ramirez would, you figured Emmanuel Clase would, just with the seasons they've had, and for J-Ram, the resume for sure. But, for Andres Jimenez, he's had an all-star type season, but that doesn't always mean you make the team. And a lot of times that'll depend on some of the competition at his position. And it was nice to see him recognized for what has been a really good season. And, hitting over 300, he's made some great plays defensively. So good for him. And some of his best moments have been late in games, which is kind of cool too. So maybe that played into it a little bit, but a young guy who's only 23. I think Jose's excited to go for sure, but both Jimenez and Clase, because it's their first All-Star game, I think it means a little bit more to both of them. And they were pretty emotional when they found out the news.
We're talking with Jim Rosenhaus. It's Bases and Balls, Guardians broadcaster, brought to you by Nika IBEW. Rosie, last year, Tito's health was a big question mark. And, of course, almost a half a season, he had to step away because of health reasons. Into this year, he has shown very little signs of that, at least to us from the outside looking in. But what I wanted to say is maybe this might be his best. And I put him among the top in baseball as far as managers. This might even be the best year of him managing, getting all these young personalities centered in, the rainouts, keeping this team centered. He's done just a marvelous job again as manager of this baseball team.
Yeah, I think the young part of it that you mentioned is, not necessarily different, because I think back in 14 and 15, he was working into young players like Kipnis and Brantley and that core that eventually went to the World Series in 16. That they were cutting their teeth then, but they were much farther along than this group. 10 rookies, Ray, 10. I mean, that's a lot. And there's really not that grizzled veteran leader in the clubhouse. Now, Jose Ramirez, they certainly revere him and that type of thing. But, like the Jason Giambi type or Mike Napoli type who would pull a player aside and call him out if they weren't playing the game the right way or certain things. And Jose does that a little bit, but I think he's more by example. It's hard to be another player on this team and not run hard when Jose Ramirez runs like his pants are on fire all the time. I mean, he's always hustling and things like that. So that I think is where Tito has really had an impact on this team, because he's had to do a little more, I think, because he doesn't have that older veteran in the clubhouse who can police some of that stuff. So he's done a great job with this team. It's not easy. There's been some downs as well as the ups, but he's done a real good job keeping it on a level playing field, I think.
Rosie, to wrap it up on this Friday morning, let's talk about it. I know we had the Tigers last night, but got the Tigers Friday night, late Saturday afternoon, again on Sunday. This is a team that got us at their park last week. Talk about the Tigers from your perspective, obviously an improving club.
Yeah, and one that I think's been a disappointment record-wise this season. Very slow start, not what they expected. They thought this would be that year where they made some strides, and by that, record-wise, the days of losing 100 games, they feel that's behind them. But it's been a rough start. Now, I think we've seen they can play some good baseball as they did last week and be a dangerous club. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes here this week, because I know the Guardians were kind of, sometimes it's when you play a team and the Guardians were just scrambling and hang on after a long stretch of games and 3 doubleheaders in a week and, pitching backed up and all that kind of stuff. So I think they're in a little bit better position here heading into the weekend, and we'll see how the series goes, because I'm sure they weren't real happy about losing 4 straight over in Detroit.
Bases and balls, Guardians broadcaster Jim Rosenhaus. He joined us here on the morning show here on WAKR, brought to you by Nika IBEW. As always, my friend, thanks for carving out some time for us, and we'll talk to you real soon, Rosie.
You got it, Ray. Thank you.